Now, I want you to not worry if you're not completely picking up everything that we're doing here, because I'm going to be up front with you here. Excel is a little bit difficult to learn if you haven't used it before, especially if you haven't used any kind of spreadsheet. It's not like a lot of other programs where you can kind of go in there and it's geared to do something that's a pretty simple task, for example. It's one of your more complicated things. And of course, a lot of people don't really like working with numbers in the first place, but let's just face it, that's what Excel is all about. What I have found overcomes that is, number one, actually doing what I show you. So periodically throughout the training, I'm going to tell you, pause the video, and then you go do it yourself. And you need to make sure that you do that, because that's where you're really going to learn the basics. That's where you're going to learn how to do it yourself and remember it. And the second thing is repetition. So with what I do in all of my training is I do things more than once. You can't just show somebody how to do something once and really expect them to remember it. So you're going to see a lot of things get repeated, but that's the way that we learn. Repetition, repetition. So with that said, if you haven't done so already, pause the video now. Make sure you go in and repeat the last exercise. Go in there and bold the text, align it, set the size, the font, everything, and get it to where it looks pretty much like what you see now on the screen. Go ahead and pause the video, and I'll wait for you. Okay, so we're ready to go. The first thing we want to do is get Excel to do some work for us. We've been entering a lot of information here, and Excel is pretty much just sitting back and watching at this point. So we're going to get it to do something automatically, and that's calculate some values for us. Let's go ahead and select L5, and this is the first place that we want Excel to calculate something for us. And we want it to calculate the actual total based on the sales of 245 whiz-bang fuzzy wuzzies at a cost of $14.95 a piece. And in order to do that, we're going to use what's called a formula. Now, this could be a little bit tricky, but don't worry. Here's what formulas do. Formulas allow us to reference cells and put in some mathematical equations that we want Excel to do. And then, if the values that are in those cells change, it doesn't matter. Excel just redoes the work. I'll show you an example of it, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what's going on. Whenever we enter a formula, we start it with an equal sign. You always have to start a formula with an equal sign. And then you simply put in the formula. I'm going to use a really simple one right now, and that is J5. Notice that I typed J5 and that cell got highlighted. That's because Excel is really smart. It knows that I'm referencing a specific cell. So whenever you type a combination like that, J5, H8, anything like that, Excel picks up on it pretty quick. Now here's what I want to do. I want to take J5, whatever value is in this cell, I want to multiply it by the value in this cell. So I'm going to hit the multiplication symbol, and that's the asterisk, and then I'm going to type K5. So let's go ahead and do K5 now, and also notice that that gets highlighted. Okay, different color, and it's color coordinated. How about that? So J5 is blue, as it is in our formula. K5 is green, as it is in our formula. Now watch what happens when I hit the Enter key. Boom, we get an instant calculation. Now the beauty of this is that if I change the value in either one of these cells, that information gets updated. So let's change this to 100 and hit Enter. Look at that, it changes to $14.95 right away. If I change this to 10, then again, it instantly gets updated. So let's go back to 245, and I'll hit the Tab key and change it to $14.95 and hit Enter again. So we get an updated value. Now, right now, this doesn't really look like currency, but that's something that we're going to fix once we've got all of the information entered in here. Okay? So let's go ahead and do the next one. In this case, we hit the equal sign because all formulas start with an equal sign. And then we're going to reference this cell right here, which is J6. But watch how I do this. Instead of typing J6, I'm just going to click it. And notice that Excel inserts the reference for me. Okay, so I click on the cell, it enters it in the formula for me. I'm going to hit the multiplication symbol and click the next cell. So I am saying this cell equals J6, whatever value is in J6, multiplied whatever value is in K6. And I'll hit enter, and that gets totaled up for me. Now let's go back real quick and take a look at the formulas. Remember, if I select the cell, the value is showing up, okay, in the cell, but the actual formula that's in that cell shows up on the formula bar. So again, we're saying this cell equals J6 times K6, and that is a reference. This is actually what's called a relative reference. And in the next exercise, you're going to see what I mean by relative.